Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. Hey guys, or original link to the video, top of the description. My name's Connor if you're new. Hope everyone's doing well. Walter's World, great channel, lovely, preemptive like. I did just say the original link, right? My memory is... Let's go. Englishisms, new word. England stereotypes, what makes the English so darn English? Let's find out.
Hey, the fellow travelers, Mark here with Walter's World, and today we're in Stratford-upon-Avon. We have the Holy Trinity Church behind me, where the bard Shakespeare himself has been laid to rest. And today, I want to talk about Englishisms.
Guys, the upon Avon or upon whatever, I feel like a lot of towns in England have this. It's Avon is the river, right? It's just a town on the river.
And today, I want to talk about Englishisms. Englishisms, you ask? Well, these are those little cultural things that you see here in England with the people that make you go, huh, yeah, that is totally an English thing. And I think I want to start with probably the shining a beacon of light that the English bring to the world. And that's their queue culture. You know, their line culture. Like,
classic.
Making a line, making the queue here in England is a thing. It doesn't matter where you are. You're at an event, you're at a store, you're at a museum, you're walking down the street. They do the queues extremely well.
This is a strange one when I first learned about it, because it made me think, do people think that people in other countries don't have lines and just like push each other out of the way? But I've learned that it's not that England is the only place that has lines. It's just the strictness that you sort of adhere to it and always make lines in places other people might not makes more sense. Like for getting on a subway, I think is a great example, or just on a train. I mean, people in a lot of countries, I think, just barge on, and others might form a line.
Extremely efficiently. So, like, there's always a joke. Oh, in heaven, the English organize everything. They are the ones that get it in order. Because it's true. And the thing is, you see that in how things work. The system is in place. Like, people joke about it sometimes, but once it's in the system, stuff gets done. And you see that kind of line system permeating society. And it's kind of cool because, I know I'm never going to lose my place in line because the queue has put me in the right place. And so that's one thing I want to say. Thank you, England. Now, could have...
It's definitely a de-stressor, you know? Just, like, not having to worry about, like, oh, am I getting, like, cut in line? Am I not, you know, going where I'm supposed to? Just knowing, all right, there's a culture of lines here. It's got a little bit of a de-stress.
Sported that all around the world, too.
De-stressor.
That would have been awesome. But that is one thing I always notice. Like, sported that all around the world, too, because that would have been awesome. But that is one thing I always notice, like, just a queuing thing. Because that's one way you'll see, I don't know if you ever see an upset English person aside from football, but yeah, queue skipping, queue things, yeah, tourists, don't mess with that. And another thing that is so English that you can't help but fall in love with it is a cuppa. Look,
cup of tea?
Here having a cup of tea.
I just want to say, some people might find this is not great weather. I think this is amazing weather, okay? Maybe if you want to go for a hike and don't want to get wet, it wouldn't be ideal. Look at all the greenness, and just you can see the light sprinkling of rain, birds chirping. So peaceful.
All in love with it is a cuppa. Look,
cup of tea?
Here having a cup of tea, honestly, it changes everything. You have bad news? Oh, I'll put the kettle on. You have good news? Oh, I'll put the kettle on. You have no news? I'll put the kettle on. It doesn't matter what it is. People love their tea here. Young, old, all in between. I mean, it's just one of those things you end up enjoying. When you sit there and you have that cup of tea, I'm a Yorkshire tea person myself. Put that cream in there, maybe with a couple of sugars in there too, and you're sitting back and relaxing, having your biscuit put in there, maybe dunking it, because that's how I do it. I know maybe you don't, but just enjoying the whole experience of having tea. Because it's not just a drink here in England, it's more of a mentality of, hey, just put a cup on, we'll be fine. A cup will make...
See, this is something that some people might not think is really cool, but just seeing the brick side kind of poke out right here and the narrow, it seems like kind of like... Maybe it could be claustrophobic to some people, but it seems like the houses are almost leaning in a little, and the half-timber houses just overhang. Wonderful. And language is fascinating, and just how it evolves. It's like, would you like a cup of tea? Oh, yeah. And then it's just like, cup of tea? Yeah, sure. Cuppa? Yeah, thanks. And it's just the more familiar you get with what someone intends, you can just shed words and syllables
drink here in England. It's more of a mentality of, hey, just put a cup on, we'll be fine. A cup will make life better. And that's one thing I really like. And so when you're having a tough day, no matter where you are in the world, put on the kettle, have a cup of good English tea, and you'll be all right. And that kind of goes on to another thing that's very much an Englishism. I'm sure you've seen the t-shirts over the years and the posters. Keep calm and carry on. It is really much a thing here. Like when things don't go well, like every 4 years in the World Cup and every 4 years in the European Cup, the English are always like, you know what, we're going to get through it. It doesn't matter if you're down, there's always next time. And they
Some
have
World
that
War
kind
II,
of mentality.
right?
And you see that when you hang out with them and you do things. People are very much, oh, it's bad weather, but you know what? We're going to keep on. Oh, it's raining again? Well, we're still going to walk the Cotswolds way. You know, I'm going to do that 102 miles. We're going to do it. And I love that attitude of perseverance. And it's something
That thing was moving pretty quick. I tried to see if
do that 102
I don't think
miles.
people are
do
sped
it.
up.
And I
That's
love that
booking
attitude.
it. You guys ever been on those carousels as a kid, and they would have the little gold rings that you could like go around and pick up? And I remember there used to be this big clown mouth on like a cloth or whatever, and you'd throw it into it. Memory unlocked.
The Cotswolds way, you know, I'm going to do that 102 miles. We're going to do it. And I love that attitude of perseverance. And it's something that's very much an English thing. And some people think it's like one of those boring, dry kind of things. But no, honestly, it's one of those things you really respect about them. It's like, yes, things don't always go your way, but we're going to keep on. And you can respect that with a culture here. And kind of another cultural thing here is the politeness. Like, there's nothing more English than saying sorry for something you didn't do. Like, you can see some things they export. Like when you go to Canada, we make these jokes. The Canadians always say sorry. I think that's definitely one of those things that
Or
got
to like an inanimate object that you bump into.
brought over when the English came to Canada.
Is that crazy?
But when you hear all the cheers for doing something nice, the thank yous and the sorry, excuse me, let me get the door for you kind of stuff, like, yeah, that politeness is like, it's a legit thing here. Now, it's weird because when you see the young people, you don't see the politeness at all. But I think something happens.
Look at this. Have you ever seen such a beautiful street in your life?
Sorry, excuse me, let me get the door for you kind of stuff. Like, yeah, that politeness is like, it's a legit thing here. Now, it's weird because when you see the young people, you don't see the politeness at all. But I think something happens around 22, 25-ish that they kind of switch and become quite polite. Because the thing is that keep calm and carry on, that politeness kind of thing, that having a cup and getting through, really kind of, you see it because you don't really see an upset Englishman very often, do you?
People usually become less selfish when they get older. I'm
But
sure that's
honestly,
everywhere.
like when you see an upset Englishman, they might be smiling. That's when you need to be worried, okay? Another very English thing are the newspapers, the broadsheets. I'm never really sure all the differences out there because there's the normal newspaper kind of things, and then there's the ones that look like your crazy aunt who writes conspiracy theories on Facebook. She wrote the headline. So you're like, what the heck is going on? And you see them out there and you're like, what is this here? And people really get into it. And you get the debates and the chats about it. My goodness, listening to talk radio in England is like, it's next level. Like, next time you're driving around, turn off your iTunes or whatever, or your Spotify, and just put on the local radio, the local talk stuff, especially with sports. You'll hear some very interesting things, but the way they focus on the news and how it gets sensationalized is hilarious. It's like we do that.
I'm so weird with it's something I noticed kind of recently is I really don't listen to music in the car. I usually just listen to like YouTube videos or a podcast or something and put it on Bluetooth. It kind of hit me. I'm like, when's the last time I listened to music on the radio?
Kind of in the U.S. too.
Am I
but
boring?
Here it's like a different kind of thing, and it's kind of funny when you see those. So if you're at the store, just glance over at the newspapers over there and see, hey, what's the crazy headline for today? And if you go through, page 6 might be a little interesting as well. Now, the next Englishism I want to talk about is the food, and it's not just the
Shrimp?
interesting names they have, whether it's total.
Oh, I'm hungry. That looks so delicious. A nice little chili, sweet sour chili dip. That's what it looks like.
Food. And it's not just the interesting names they have, whether it's toad in a hole or spotted dick, but it's also how they eat things. Like, I love baked beans and I love toast, but I never would have thought of beans on toast. And then you look at brown sauce, and I mean, don't get me wrong, brown sauce is actually pretty tasty. Like, once you have it, you're like, that's weird. Then you're like, that's interesting. Then, hey, can I get the brown sauce at breakfast, please? I mean, it grows on you. And that's one of the weird things about the food is we all joke about it. We talk about English food. Oh, it's so bad. Oh, remember, in heaven, the English organize things, but in hell, the English are the cooks, right? Well, actually, you get actually.
I've never understood this. I don't get it. This is a classic example of like the French stereotype of like surrendering, right? It's like once something just becomes infused in society, then people forget about facts or anything and they just say it because it's well known and it's funny or whatever. And I never understood that with British food. Every country you can find a bad dish of food and be like, oh, classic Canadian cuisine, classic Mexican food or whatever. And so yeah, it's nonsense. And maybe it's a personal food preference. I like mashed potatoes and beef and stuff like that. So I think a lot of English food has
Good
that
food
stuff.
here, which blows a lot of tourists' minds when they go and they see all the different food you can get around the country. But it is kind of funny how proud they are of their food and of all the little things that are there. But for me, it's just the kind of funny nature of the names and
Mushrooms is such a good addition to the classic breakfast. We should take that over
kind
here.
of combinations of things. And you know, you can't go wrong with an English breakfast. A full English breakfast. Is it healthy? No. Is it low in calories? No. Should you eat every day? No. But do you want to have it every day on your vacation when you're here in England? Heck yeah. Another funny Englishism you see when you travel the country is just their love affair with pre-packaged sandwiches. Now, don't get me wrong. Everybody likes a good
I noticed this as more of a thing in just a lot of places in Europe, not just the UK, that it just looked like the stuff that I would usually stay away from in like a convenience store or a gas station over here. It looked much better and was better in European countries I went
They
to.
make some good sandwiches here. You go to a pub and get like a bacon brie
Got a
and
curry sandwich?
cranberry sandwich. It's unbelievable. That toast, it's fantastic. But I'm talking about in the triangle container, already sliced, already made sandwiches, whether it's your coronation chicken, which I actually think is pretty good, or your ham and cheese, or your tuna fish and corn. They seem to
Coronation
love these
chicken.
things. And everywhere you go, when it's lunchtime, people pile into the M&S. They pile into the Tesco. You're on a road trip, you hit the petrol station, and they just get these sandwiches. You're like, you could do so much better at a restaurant or someplace else. But
Oh, is that?
these sandwiches, you're like, you could do so
Panko bread, breaded chicken breast, katsu mayo, and sweet soy ketchup. What is chicken? What?
much better at a restaurant or someplace else. But they just love it. I don't know. It's one of those English things. They just love their sandwich and get their snack with it and their drink, and that's my lunch. But
What's on a coronation chicken?
yeah,
What-
they're just like, they got this thing for those pre-made sandwiches. They're just odd. They're everywhere. Everywhere. Now, another English thing that we joke about is the anti-dentist movement here, you know, and that's one of those things when they ever make jokes about English people, it's like they got the big teeth and it's all over the place. But I'll be honest with you, I've met people here before that were proud that they hadn't gone to the dentist in 20 years. And I'm like, really? Couldn't tell at all. And you'll see that you don't get as many people going to the dentist, it seems like, when you're here. Now, it's not as bad as it used to be. Things have gotten better. I mean, maybe NHS covers dentist stuff now, but it was one of those things you did notice that it was
That's a good question. Does it? Does NHS cover dentistry?
dentist stuff now, but it was one of those things you did notice that it was a very much an anti-dental movement here, it seemed like. And the one thing you get reminded every couple years is the truly 100% optimism that the English have, that it's coming home, it's coming home. Oh my gosh.
I feel like that's every sports fan of any team in any sport. You'll find those fans are just like, this is the year.
Every time I've been here the last, I don't know, decade or so, every time it's a European Cup or a World Cup, they start singing that song. And they're so hot, like, yes, it's really going to happen this time. And they've done well. Don't get me wrong. Semifinals, I wish my team could do that, right? But the thing is that totally Englishness of, yes, we're going to do it. Yes, we're going to do it. Even though they know in the end it's not going to happen. But you remember, keep calm and carry on. So when it goes down, they're like, oh, it's okay. We'll get them next time. And then you start listening to the broadsheets and the news radio.
Well, you don't want to be pessimistic about an outcome and then have them win, because that would feel And so in order to get the best enjoyment when they do win, you're going to want to be hopeful and hope for the best, and it'll be great. Why would you risk being more rational maybe at the expense of the joy you'll feel when they eventually do, if they eventually do? So that's just makes sense with human
It's
nature.
okay, we'll get them next time. And then you start listening to the broadsheets and the news radio and how it was this thing's fault and this thing's, if this would have happened this other way, oh, if only so and so would have been the captain, if only so and so would have done this, you know, you start to hear these things and you're like, that is one thing I love about the English. No matter what happens, they always think every 2 years it's coming home, all right? So what are some of the funny English things you've noticed or Englishisms you've seen over your trips here in England? Let us know in the comments below so we can have other travelers look for fun cultural things when they come here, because honestly, it's a fun place to be. I mean, you got historic places, you got nice people, you do get some good food. The tikka masala is fantastic, national dish. Did you know that? Yeah, invented here in England.
I guess what I love about the British is kind of the shared language and the bridge that I feel like they are between America and Europe. They're like that guide to be like, hey, let me introduce you to Europe over here. And so I feel a close connection with Brits. And so it's not really something about British people I immediately think about when he asks that, but I guess that's my best answer.
I wish y'all the best. Have a great time, and I'll say bye from here in Stratford, England. And yes, Shakespeare, he's right there. If you want to go see him, you can.
I feel so jittery right now. Like I need to eat some food. I drink too much coffee on an empty stomach, and I'm like tweaking right here. Love y'all. Hope you're all doing well. Would appreciate any comments down below. It was a great video as always from Walter's World, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time. Bye.